All right, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. Today is Tuesday, July 11th. I'm Peter Loshak. This is the live show we do every morning, every weekday morning at 10:30 Eastern Time. It is the All-Star break, so we are chilling, kicking back, taking it a little bit easy for a few days. This is the one span of days where there really is a break in the action in sports betting. It's a nice little vacation to sit back and relax and take a little stock of your life, take a little stock of your opinions, and of course start to get up to speed in college football, which is what I'm doing. I'm going to be doing a comprehensive Pac-12 preview tomorrow at SBR Video, so definitely look for that. And I'm starting to formulate some opinions on the Pac-12, some pretty solid opinions. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Washington this year. Their offense, I'm thinking Washington I might be leaning to unders with Washington. I think losing John Ross is a big knock to that offense. Browning might have some lingering shoulder issues from last year. They've got a great running game and a great defense, so I'm starting to think about maybe unders with Washington. Oregon's going to be interesting. Oregon might possibly actually be undervalued depending on how the market prices them, what the actual expectations are. So
just for season win totals or for conference?
No, for just game spreads is what I'm sort of hinting at.
Okay.
Yeah, because Oregon might, they have obviously a new coaching staff, and the coaching is a lot of the great pieces are still there from their recruiting, and it's all about expectations, at least to start the year. And Oregon I could see them being better than because obviously expectations are going to be tempered for the first season under Coach Taggart. So that'll be interesting. The All-Star. Can we? Lou Skunt says, since it's a slow day, can we talk about books? Sure. If you want to ask anything about any books, I tend to have. Although, of course, if you really want to know about books, you can just go to sportsbookreview.com, right?
That's the place to go.
Sportsbookreview.com. I'm not going to spell all those words out for you, but they're spelled the standard way that they're spelled. Sportsbookreview.com for any and everything you need to know or want to know about any and every book out there. Of course, I will answer any questions you have. Okay. SBR gives BetDSI an A+ rating. Well deserved. They are part of the Chris family of books, which of course is probably the most reliable, most long-term series of families of books out there, most reliable series of books that's been there for a long time. He says, I've been screwed by DSI, and I've talked to 4 other people that got checks from a closed account. All right, well, I'm sorry to hear that. There's a lot of miscommunications and misunderstandings when it comes to dealings with sports books, and one of the great things that SBR does, they do conflict resolution for free. So what you should do, Lou Skunt, is what? Send an email to whom?
Yeah, you can just go to the homepage of sportsbookreview.com.
Yeah.
There's a file a complaint section, or
file
just
a complaint
contact us,
section.
and,
Yes.
and we'll get that. We'll make sure we can see what
yes.
we can do to help.
SBR has a great track record of filing of resolving resolutions. They've been doing that for years and years and years, and the cost to you is only $0. $0 to get a country. Yeah, pretty good deal.
Amazing value.
Yeah, and I know some people years back who got some pretty big settlements for SBR. Of course, SBR has no skin in the game when it comes to conflict resolution. They just want fair decisions to be made. SBR makes money from having a healthy betting environment. So yeah. Mike Keep says, hey, Pete, you like all those upper deck opposite field pop-outs by Judge last night, guys, an animal. Yeah, congratulations to anyone who bet Judge as the favorite. I didn't bet that one. I didn't even handicap the home run derby. But in general, I like to take the big underdogs in exhibitions like that. And, of course, that was not the way to go yesterday. And I believe actually 2 years ago, favorite one as well. Wasn't Stanton the favorite and he won? I don't remember, but yeah, maybe the favorites are the way to go in home run derbies coming up. We'll see. Yeah. So sorry, Lou Skunt. I was a little bit inarticulate in my description of BetDSI, but I hope I communicated well that SBR does a lot of conflict resolution, and they do it for free, and it's a relatively painless, hassle-free process. You just send an email, you explain your situation, and SBR acts as a go-between between players and books and tries to resolve it equitably. You're right?
No, you're spot on.
Yes. All right. And Anil Frank says, how do I confirm IFBC if I won the raffle? Anil Frank won the raffle? Did he?
What's your poster name for the contest?
Yeah, he might have been, because there was one guy who was one of the raffle people who had a name like Frank or Frank A or A Frank. That might have been him.
Maybe. Okay. No, well, what we're going to do is we're going to actually reach out via email. The email that you use to register with SBR, we have those on file. So we've already got the team putting together a nice little email. So check your inbox.
Yes. Loose Gun says, no way, man. Thank you for getting to an off-topic question. Was that an off-topic question? Yeah, no. DSI is part of the Chris books, and one thing I can guarantee you is no one in the Chris books is looking to make money by screwing their customers. The big books are looking to maintain their reputation, and I understand that a lot of times when you have an issue, sometimes I have misgraded plays at books, and that kind of annoys me, because the misgraded plays in I never see a misgraded play in my favor, and the misgraded plays against me, I have to call in and stuff like that. But books aren't looking to make a few extra bucks here and there by doing small time screws of like random players. That's just not their business model. They're not looking to make a few extra $100 or $1,000 here by doing underhanded things. That's just a terrible business move for a book like for someone from the Chris books. That's just not what they do. So I'm sorry you had a problem, loose cunt. I would definitely give the Chris books A+ ratings, and I'm sure that if there is a legitimate issue there, SBR. Loose cunt said, so it might have been a live betting question. Do I live bet? I have in the past. I don't do it regularly, so maybe Loose Cunt has a live bet issue. And I will say this: that live betting is one of the areas that, because it's so like rapid paced, and there's a lot of areas for misunderstandings. Books can make mistakes, players can make mistakes. There can be a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to live betting, because it's so rapid paced. That is the one area where there can be a lot of unfortunate issues. And
that's where it's really helpful to chime into the forum. Ask questions.
Yes.
If live betting is
Yes.
what you like and what that's your wheelhouse. Get in there, chat with other players that do the same thing.
Yeah.
And they can also point you in a direction.
Yeah.
Same with our reviews and whatnot. You should find all that info.
Yeah, absolutely. The answer to that is I don't live bet, but I can guarantee you. I mean, there are scam books out there, but the big books are not looking to like pad their profits with like a few scams here and there of like random guys. It's just not worth it. It's not what they do. You know what I mean? They're not. When I make my $4 bet that's misgraded, I have to remind myself, like, they don't need the extra $4 for me that they would be getting if I didn't catch this second half misgraded push. It should have been a win. But anyway, so yeah, no, I don't live bet regularly. I used to, and I think it's interesting. I just looked over what I wanted to do and looked over what my approaches were, my bankroll was, and I decided not to. But I used to, and I used to do a little bit of baseball live betting at Pinnacle as well. I thought it was very interesting. And let's see. Jim Bean says, Pete, do you think the New York Giants win the NFC East? I haven't got into. I tend to save my NFL research for last, just because it's relatively easy to do NFL research and relatively much more involved to do.
Are you a Giants fan?
No.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. No, and then I saw in the news the other day what Giants guys were comparing Eli to LeBron James. Yeah.
Okay, maybe
don't
see
that.
Sure. David Hardy saying Bartolo Colon going to Twins. David Hardy, if you're bullshitting me on this, that's not fucking funny. If you're not bullshitting me on this, that is pretty interesting. Is Colon going to be a starter? If he is, oh man,
he's going.
What?
He's going to the Twins.
That's what David Hardy just.
No, it's true.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
He's going to have some. Is he going to have some issues there, facing American League lineups in that park with the DH? Nelly, that's going to be some. God, I hope they make him a starter. And Lord knows, I hope they keep him in the starting rotation after the first time he gets absolutely shellacked, and keep him in after the second time he gets shellacked, and then keep him in after the third time he gets shellacked. That's going to be an ugly scene with Bartolo Colon going to Minnesota if he's in the starting rotation.
I think he's going to start in the minors, but
I'm sorry.
I mean, he's what, 44 years old?
Yeah. I mean, they're not sending him to the majors. I'm just, because if a guy like Bartolo Colon is A Frank 3. Anil Frank was A Frank 3. I remember reading that name. He is one of the winners. Okay. So Anil Frank, get in touch with follow the instructions that Zach read to you earlier in the show, and And congratulations on winning that raffle.
See him down here soon.
Yeah, a lot of people looked at that format and thought that this shit is fixed. It was not fixed. It was not fixed. It may have been haphazard and it may have been amateurish, but it was certainly not fixed. I had a good time. It may have been juvenile, but it was certainly not fixed.
Quick round of applause for Allison.
Quick round of Allison. Yeah, Allison. She seemed like a quite intelligent lady. Actually, quite an intelligent lady. Yeah, actually, this is a good. We have the director of marketing behind the camera today, filling in for Matt, who is out, and very quickly, a development did kind of happen. There may be a person, a female that I want to meet, who and if there is a woman that I'm going to shave for, it's going to be this one. And I'm just wondering what the play. Am I allowed to just change my look at will at any time, or do we have to have some sort of marketing strategy that goes along with my?
I say we raffle off your mustache. I say we bring Allison back in, we pick balls, and send your mustache to 5 lucky winners.
Yeah, all right, because I don't know what I want to do, because I have to make a decision here. I might have to make a quick last-minute decision on my looks. We'll talk about that later, but a recent development has taken place in that area of my life. Adam Lopez asking, what percentage of your bankroll do you usually place on a wager? Anywhere from about 0.5% up to 2 or 3%. There will be times when I'll step up to 4 or 5%, but that is a massive play for me if I do that. I tend to be very conservative with my bets, and I tend to be a little bit less conservative with like college football totals in general, football games where you can put a lot more research into it and feel a lot more confident about your bet. Those, and I have a lifetime good track record with college football totals. So sometimes college football totals, I'll do like, 3 and 4% bets regularly. But for things like baseball and for college basketball and for NBA, I barely bet. But, I'll do like, standard bet might be anywhere from 0.5% to 1%. And if I really like it, I'll go up to like, 2%. And that's sometimes I'll go up to 3%, but that would be a big step out. Jim Bean says, Pete, do you have clients? Do I have clients? I can't even get laid for free. What the hell are you talking about? What the hell is he talking about? Do I have clients? If you have someone who's interested in paying me, just put me in touch with them. Yeah, I would love to have some clients. I can't fucking get laid for free, dude. I've got so college football is coming up, and I am definitely I have a good track record in totals in college football, although it's weird looking over my record, a really good record in college football, except 1 year where I had a bad record, and I have no excuse for that. I have no reason for why that happened. So any year I could have a down year, but yeah, if I look over my my track record, it's like good year, great year, horrible year, good year, great year. So
well, how do you approach college football betting? I mean, there's so many games taking place. There's obviously.
Okay, that's a good. Okay, here's what I do for college football. First of all, in my opinion, preseason rankings and preseason research is very, very important. Much more important than it is in other sports. Certainly in basketball or baseball, where you can kind of like even if you wanted to, you could do minimal preseason research and then sort of just jump on and hockey. Catch the wave on the second week of the season, and you're basically going to be where you were as if you did, a ton of preseason research. But for football, it's a totally different ball game. Preseason research is very important, and you'll see a lot of outlier results in week 1 and in the first few weeks of the season that are not indicative of how the team is likely to do going forward. And in fact, your preseason research is more indicative of how they're likely to do going forward than whatever they happen to do in the first few weeks of the season is.
And what's that due to? Just the structure of the team?
It's
such a large turnover rate of players.
Yeah, it's
new guys coming in.
It's basically due to the fact that there's relatively few games, obviously, in football, and that
it takes a while for new teams to mesh.
Yeah, that basically the preseason rankings and the preseason predictions, the preseason analysis tend to be way more accurate than what happens on the field in the first few weeks of the season. So right now I'm in the midst of doing my conference by conference research. I'm crunching the majors now, ACC and SEC and and Pac-12, of course. And then, you know, in August, I'll start looking at the second-tier conferences. And hopefully, the plan is that by September 1st, I will have extensive research done on every college football team. And basically, what I have is, so I do my research. I take all my stuff, and I basically wind up having a document of bullet points for each team. 1 to 3 pages, you know, and I'll have the bullet points for each team. What are the and I'm actually going to share that in my video tomorrow for the Pac-12, so you see what I do. I basically have the key issues for each team, you know, whether it, like for example, obviously, well, Oregon, there's so many issues I can't even get into it right now, but you know, the key issues for Washington, let's say, right? Key issues are, you know, Chris Peterson makes great teams. He did it at Boise State, and he's very reliable. Washington, the big negative for Washington is they lose a dynamic player, John Ross, who is like a next level. He beat what's that guy's name? Chris. He broke the record for the 50-yard dash in the NFL compound, right? And his name is John Ross. He's from Washington, a wide receiver.
Okay, Chris Johnson's record.
Chris Johnson's right. There you go. There you go. Yes, there you go. Matt. I mean, Zach Jones nails it. Yes, Chris Johnson's record. And so, you know, he would be a hard guy to replace even on, you know, Alabama or whatever. Washington, I don't care who. I mean, the guys they're going to replace him with are good, and Chris Peterson knows how to plug holes. But that's going to be tough. He had to be double teamed, so that's a big bullet point for Washington, right? They also replace a ton of guys. But aside from him, they replace everyone else on offense, including their 2 stud running backs. Browning is awesome, although Browning had a shoulder injury. So I look at you know, Washington, and I've got just using them as an example. Their defense is going to be awesome. They return all their guys back. So I'm looking at them as a team that's likely to be successful, could possibly be a little bit overvalued. I'm looking to play unders with them because I think their offense is going to be more conservative, and I think that their defense is going to be just as good, if not better. And I have their tendencies written down, which is that they're a team that I'm expecting them to dominate any lower tier or mid-range team that they play, but when they go against a truly elite teams like Alabama, any top 10 team, looking for them to falter a little bit. So I've got my general thoughts on Washington, right? I'm generally looking for unders for them. I'm generally looking at them to cover against mid-range and lower tier teams, unless the market makes a radical adjustment, which is not likely, but very possible. And I'm looking to fade them against the elite teams, and to struggle offensively against the elite teams as they did last year. So I've got my you know, sheet of bullet points for each team, and then it's a very easy bullet point sheet to read, because anytime I want to refresh my memory on a team, I can just go back. I don't have to do a ton of research. I just have.
And you're going to share these tomorrow.
What?
You're going to share these tomorrow on the video.
Yes, I am.
Well,
yes, I am.
Who was it? We just had Mitchell Miho was saying, finally, oh my God, Pete actually accepted me on Twitter. It only took 6 months and 5 re-requests. I think this is some pretty good info we should share on your Twitter account too.
Yes.
Maybe some screenshots of some of these bullet
points. Sure.
Guys,
yes.
Be sure to follow Pete on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, I've got my bullet point sheets for each team would be like 1 to 3 pages. So in the video tomorrow, I'm just gonna hit the main bullet points and put the graphics on the screen. I'm not gonna, like, in my bullet point sheets, I have, like, you know, a few sentences explaining, you know, the reasoning, going a little bit in depth. But the point is that during the regular season, that document that I make is a very easy document to go back to and consult and you know, refresh my memory on, you know, what the issues are for the team, you know.
And you find yourself, like, week 10 of the season, going back and looking at that and realizing you were completely off?
Sometimes, sure. I mean, more often than often.
How often do you go back and update these, or do you go back and look at it and say, wow, this is a team I just don't want to touch because I
I will say this. More often than not, I go back to my document and find that I was completely right. But sometimes, do I find I was completely wrong? Absolutely. And in fact, there was one year that I believe it was Auburn that a lot of people were, or a lot of you know, sharp people were wrong about. And yeah, absolutely. You know, there's always a few. I mean, obviously, there's 150 teams or whatever, so there's always going to be multiple teams where I look back and say, you know, something was wrong. But of course, then you're monitoring it during the season, and you're knowing what to look for. One big thing is in college football. This is a big thing: depth. Some teams have great depth. Some teams are vulnerable and have flimsy depth, especially at certain positions. So I'll make a note of that. And then I'll go back and look. Did they have any injuries in those areas where they have suspect depth? You know, is there a you know, a lot of times what will happen is the year, I believe it was Auburn, unless I'm misremembering what team it was. There will be like some, big quarterback, 6'6" quarterback, dual threat or whatever, and everyone's expecting him to carry the team, and he completely flops, right? That'll happen at least with a couple of teams every year. They'll have some big quarterback, either he's like a JUCO transfer or a rising sophomore or whatever, and they'll be like, it's all resting on this guy, and then as the year unfolds, it'll be pretty obvious that, okay, this guy's flopping, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll have that in my notes, and that'll be an obvious thing there. And you look at teams that are, there are certain teams that I'll expect to be maybe vulnerable in the secondary, vulnerable on defense. One thing that is very predictive of defensive regression is turnover in the secondary. Whenever you have which is also a big problem with Washington this year. Not that their guys coming in are necessarily poorly touted, because they're not. They're highly touted, but in general, turnover in the secondary is very predictive of defensive regression for good defensive teams. And Washington, of course, loses Budda Baker, and a bunch of, the three different marquee players in the secondary are gone. So that's a big issue for Washington. So I'll be looking at how the secondary performs, and I'll have that note. So I don't have to look at the team and see all right, what's the offensive line doing? What's this doing? There's certain problem areas, if you want to call them those, that I'm going to be looking for each week. And so the research is still obviously a lot, but it's doable. It's doable because I have my sheet and I know what I'm looking for each week. And that's what I'm doing every Sunday from 10 a.m. to
based on that approach, so I'm guessing you're not much a futures guy. Win totals, maybe.
Correct.
Not a futures guy.
I do not. Although I look at the futures and I become aware of them, but I definitely don't bet them. So I love college football, and then the NFL. I will do sort of like the last week with the NFL preseason analysis is less important because there's so much more parity in terms of the talent on the field. So you can really there's a lot more expected variance from week to week in the NFL, and so I do my basic NFL research. It's very easy to find at the beginning of the season, and then I sort of try to ride the NFL wave week in and week out. But for college football, yes, my preseason research is very important, and I keep all those documents that I can refer back to at any time during the season. So,
any sleepers on your radar
for college football? No, not yet. Well, I've just started my in-depth research. So, you
mentioned Oregon a few times.
Oregon State might actually be a team that I think Oregon State at some point is going to be a sleeper. I don't know if they're going to be a sleeper this year, but they're
currently tied for last in the Pac-12 championship odds.
That's correct, and that's why they might be
plus 8,000.
Not a sleeper. When I say sleeper, I don't mean a sleeper to win the Pac-12. I mean a sleeper to cover their spreads is what I'm saying. Yeah, they might be.
Just people don't look too high on them.
And again, with Oregon State, exactly what I said about the quarterbacks. They signed a big quarterback from Idaho who started with Idaho. Big guy who had great numbers at a community college. He's a 6'7" guy, and as we know, just having big size in college is important. He put up great numbers at community college last year, and hopes are somewhat high for him that he'll have a good year. And if he comes in and suddenly is slinging the ball around the field, and Oregon has a semblance of a competent passing game, they're going to cover a lot of big underdog spreads. Now, if he comes in and can't handle the Pac-12 speed, then they're going to flop, and then they're going to go to Garrettson, who's his backup, and then it's going to be another classic Oregon State season of futility on offense. But at some point, Oregon State's improving, and I think it's a slow improve, but they are, as you said, being priced as the absolute dregs of the Pac-12, which is deserved. But they might, be a sneaky good play at times. ATS. So we'll see. But no, my sleepers, I have not. Aside from I'm just getting into my in-depth research right now for college football. So Cal 707 BF, thoughts on Colorado? Tune in tomorrow. I will have my thoughts on Colorado in the video that I'll be doing, and I will also mention them in the morning show.
And who are you doing the video with?
I'm sorry, what?
Who's joining you for the video?
I think it's just going to be me. I'm not sure. Anyone who wants to, if Drew would like to sit there and just listen to what I have to say, anyone can join in, but I am going to be prepared. I'll either do it myself or with Drew or with someone. Either one is fine. Anything is fine. All right. Mitchell Miho says, thanks for the ad. Love you, Pete and SBR. Yes, Homo. Absolutely. Mitchell Miho, love you back. Maybe homo. Yes, maybe
Slightly.
homo. Right back at you, Mitchell Miho. Yes. Partial homo. Or I'll say homo curious. Put it that way. Homo curious. maybe. Homo curious. All right. So getting back to baseball, what I did yesterday was I kind of looked at some righty-lefty numbers. Looked at all the big bats, righty lefty, and tried to figure out how they did. Nothing really jumped out at me that is stuff we didn't already know. Lance McCullers has some great numbers against lefties, which is a little bit eye popping. Lance McCullers is a guy, unless he gets injured. Lance McCullers is a guy who I think is going to have a big second half as well. We'll see, but I expect a strong second half, or at least a quality second half from McCullers. And again, among starting pitchers, the top starting pitcher that I have here rated against lefties is John Lester. No surprise there. Number 2 is Lance McCullers. You would expect, mostly lefties to be in these ratings here, but Lance McCullers, great numbers against lefties. And Patrick Corbin has great numbers against lefties. And then I'm seeing Alex Wood, Clayton Richard, not a surprise there. Trevor Cahill, somewhat surprisingly, great numbers against lefties. Trevor Cahill might actually I might officially be somewhat high on Trevor Cahill in the second half. Corey Kluber, Jimmy Nelson, Jeff Samardzija, another righty with some nice numbers against lefties. Zach Greinke, of course, Marcus Stroman. So some interesting names in these. Let's see, and then looking at against righties, Alex Wood. Man, Alex Wood has the third best numbers against righties that I'm seeing here, and he's a lefty, and that is very impressive. Clayton Kershaw, Chris Sale, obviously great numbers against righties, not a surprise there. Luis Perdomo is a guy with big righty-lefty splits. He is a top 10 pitcher against righties, and against lefties, much worse. So keep that in mind. Luis Perdomo is definitely a guy who suffers from righty-lefty splits. Lance McCullers, top 10 against righties as well. Lance McCullers, just a freaking stud. So I'm looking for Jacob deGrom and Lance McCullers to be two studs in the second half and maintain their value. And Jacob deGrom even hits. You know what I mean? I was reviewing the Mets batting numbers yesterday, and I was looking over their lineup, and I was like, all right, who's this guy? And I was like, who? And it's Jacob deGrom. Okay, like Jacob deGrom's numbers were in the main lineup numbers that I was analyzing yesterday. He snuck in there. He's been such a good hitter this year. So Jacob deGrom is a stud. Lance McCullers is a stud. Luis Perdomo, great against righties, bad against lefties. So look for Perdomo to continue to be good against teams like the White Sox and other teams who are righty heavy, and against teams that are lefty heavy. Look to maybe fade him. Samardzija, very reliable. Samardzija, another one, a big horse of a guy. Unless he starts to wear down or have some injury issues, which is always a possibility, of course, he might have a competent second half as well. Same deal with Jimmy Nelson. All those guys, 6'6". You know, those 6'6" guys like Jimmy Nelson, CC Sabathia, Jeff Samardzija, all those guys tend to have Corey Kluber tend to maintain their effectiveness into the second half, even if they had a strong first half. And let's see what else is interesting here. Terrible against righties, Jordan Zimmerman. He's a guy I'm looking to fade in the second half for sure. Matt Shoemaker, bad against righties. Also, he's a right-hander who's bad against righties. And Jason Hamill, bad against righties. Those two guys are also guys I'm looking to fade, although I was looking to fade Shoemaker in the first half and didn't have success with that. But I'm still kind of down on him in the second half. And Andrew Kashner, guy who has gotten it done one way or another. I'm going to have to look deeper into. I might do a deep dive just into Andrew Kashner, because I was looking to fade him most of the time in the first half and didn't have the success that I was hoping for. There was a little bit of that was due to a little bad luck and variance. There was one time when I faded him and I took a team total over 5.5, and he did have a bad start, gave up 5 runs, and then the bullpen shut the team down the rest of the way, and they scored 5, and that one wound up losing. But all right, Jim Bean says, what about Madison Bumgarner? What do you expect from him, Pete? I have not looked into that yet, but that is definitely interesting that he's coming back for sure. Ace Farmer, what's the best way to set up a baseball model? Well, that is a massive question right there, because obviously there's a ton of statistics in baseball, and they're all correlated. So when you're modeling baseball, you have to be very, very careful about not overvaluing one factor unintentionally, because they're all highly correlated. Anything that you're going to, if you're using multiple statistics that are predictive in baseball, they're highly correlated. So the most important thing in modeling baseball is to be aware of the correlation between the various statistics that you're using. Because if you're not aware of that, then you will wind up almost certainly overvaluing or undervaluing key statistics.
Is there a particular stat that you just put very little weight on?
Very little weight on. Well, I mean, batting average, but everyone already knows that. No, I wouldn't say there's any stat there's any particular stat aside from like batting average that's like notoriously, misleading, and ERA is secondarily. Other than that, but everyone kind of knows that, but not really. It's just the key is to understand how if you're using advanced stats to model baseball, the key is understanding the correlation between them. So if you're using multiple stats, because if you don't understand the correlation between them, you are likely to repeat. Same thing similar to props, right? Like if you're betting Super Bowl props, they're all correlated. So the people who bet Super Bowl props, bet multiple Super Bowl props, and bet them heavily, the first thing they're pricing out and quantifying is the correlation between the various props that they're looking to bet, so that they don't overbet any one outcome, which is extremely likely to happen, which is guaranteed to happen if you don't measure out the correlation. Let's see. Other questions. Temple, Beavers, a lot of Beaver jokes. Twitter, a lot like Twitter. Play all dogs and come out ahead. Play all. This Waging Wonders guy, been a long time listener. Play all dogs and come out ahead. Dogs have certainly done awesomely in baseball over the past couple of weeks, and I've been on many of them. I've had a good last couple of weeks to the season. Overall, I do have some overall numbers. You want to know about baseball underdogs? Here you go. Look at this. Zach, look how good I am. Someone asked a question. Here you go. Ask about baseball underdogs. You ready?
Fire away.
Okay. Underdogs of plus 100 to plus 119 in MLB. On the road, we're actually slightly unprofitable, minus about 6 units, but at home, plus 17 units. So overall, underdogs in baseball, plus 100 to plus 119, we're up 11 units. That's very profitable. That's a very high ROI, and it was all at home. Underdogs plus 100 to plus 119 at home were 105 and 96 for a profit of plus 17 units, plus 1680 on a base of $100. And in general, yes, underdogs are very profitable in baseball. Overall, underdogs plus 140 to 159, plus 120 to plus 139, and plus 100 to plus 119 were all profitable. Underdogs plus 180 and over, unprofitable, very unprofitable, and plus 160 to 179 were unprofitable as well. But in general, they were all very unprofitable. It's kind of like back and forth between home and road. The home underdogs between plus 120 and plus 139 were also slightly profitable. And then in the plus 140 to plus 159 range, the home underdogs were actually very unprofitable at minus 20 units. But on the road, they were massively profitable, plus 37 units. So yeah, in baseball, underdogs started to pick it up. In the beginning of the year, it wasn't that way. But then towards the last month of the season, towards the last 30 days, I would say, I definitely noticed that the underdogs started to pick it up. And going forward, be a little bit careful. Favorites can start to have a good value in the second half of the season. I definitely wouldn't if I was going to blindly bet either favorites or underdogs, I would definitely bet underdogs, but I wouldn't automatically just go and bet every underdog in the second half of the season. Yes, the first half of the season in baseball, they were very, very profitable, and anyone who cashed that way, excellent. Okay, let's see. Carrasco, Kluber, Fade Phillies pitching staff. All right, so this has been a nice half-hour show, a little bit freewheeling. I'll also share one bet that I made in CFL. Last week, I said that my favorite play was Toronto, and that one cashed. This week, my favorite play in the CFL, which is not at all guaranteed to cash, so the only pay, I'll just consider it, is Montreal. I bet them at 5.5 at home. Let's see what the current line is. I took Montreal plus 5.5. I bet that one. Let's just quickly check to see if that line has moved at all. I suspect it probably hasn't. Let me see. Montreal at home. Let's find these lines here. Just one quick second. I took Montreal plus 5.5. They play a very relatively low-scoring game. Their first 3 games of the season or whatever went under, And yeah, still solidly at 5.5. No movement at all. So I took Montreal at plus 5.5. I also took a small shot with Toronto and Winnipeg under 52.5. And I also took a very small shot with Ottawa and Edmonton under 57.5. Although that one I feel pretty nervous about. I don't know if I recommend that one, but I like the Winnipeg under a little bit. And I think my best play of the week would be Montreal plus 5.5 against Calgary, a tough team. But I think it should be relatively modest scoring, and Montreal should be able to hang relatively close. So that's a CFL pick for you. And what else? Should we wrap it up? I think that was a pretty informative half hour.
That's pretty good. I just got, I got to ask you, are you getting excited? Well, we're less than a month away from IFBC.
Very excited. And actually, because I'm doing this Pac-12 video on Wednesday and yesterday, of course, there were no games yesterday. I did some deep Pac-12 research, and I will admit that before yesterday, I'm just going to be honest here, I hadn't really felt the excitement for football season yet. But then yesterday, as I was making my documents, yesterday it kicked in. Yesterday it kicked in. Yesterday was the first official day that I officially felt excitement for the upcoming football season. And when that feeling hits, it never goes away until Super Bowl.
I know you're amped to meet Anil Frank.
Yes, absolutely.
That will be the highlight of your week.
Yes, congratulations, Anil Frank. That will be excellent. Joe Everett says Calgary is rolling. Jim Bean says Calgary stamps. Yes, a lot of people loving Calgary. I can certainly understand that. Calgary is a tough, strong, awesome team. Calgary is rolling, and they are awesome. So again, CFL is not necessarily my forte this year. I'm dead even so far, which is nice. And I'm up on totals, down on sides this year, but in CFL. But those are my two picks. My two picks are the Toronto-Winnipeg under at 52.5, and I am taking Montreal plus 5.5. But you're right, Calgary is rolling, and it's going to be tough. Joe Everett asks, where is Matty Ice? Matty Ice is sick or out today, or whatever, takes a day off. I mean, just because I never take a day off ever doesn't mean that other employees of this company don't deserve to have days off and should take them whenever they need them. So, all right, I guess that's about it, right? Yeah, All-Star game. People were asking about the All-Star game. I did not bet that one at all. I did not look at it. It feels very coin flippy to me. A lot of people saying under in general in the All-Star games and under tonight, and you guys might be right. I just don't. Most years I skip handicap in the All-Star break completely. So I guess that's about it. Should we wrap it up? Yep, let's wrap it up. Tomorrow, for the upcoming shows this week, I'm going to try to have one day where I'm looking for prospects to be aware of in baseball who might be brought up in in August, or more likely in September. That's something that I I try to be somewhat on top of. Prospects and when they come up, might give a big boost to a team. We saw it last year with Trevor Story. Every year there's prospects who come up and change dramatically the picture of whatever teams. Usually it's crappy teams. Philadelphia is obviously going to be a massive candidate for that this year because they have such a crappy team in the majors and some major prospects in the minors. So we might see Philadelphia in continuing to be a big underdog in September, but with a radically different roster and lineup every day, and maybe cashing some underdog tickets game in and game out in September. So we'll check that. We'll see how that happens, and I'm going to hopefully make a list of prospects that I'm looking for to see when they get brought up. And on Wednesday, tomorrow, I will be doing a Pac-12 preview and then doing other college football previews throughout the month and on into the IFBC conference. And that's it. Let's wrap it up, and we'll be back tomorrow. Okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, Phyllis.
Excellent.